Hey, I'm going to deviate a tiny bit from how my channel normally works. This is usually mostly technology talk and some just dorkiness of me. But today I wanted to kind of go into something that I've had on my mind for a while about cryptocurrencies and kind of explain to you how I see them in this world and where they fit and what we can liken it to in the past. I'll just preface things number one, and I'll say that I do own not cryptocurrencies, but I own crypto exchanges. I own stock in those. So that's a full disclosure situation here. And the other thing that I'll go into is that I was very skeptical on crypto at the beginning. I was not a big fan of it. I did not think that this was going to be, something that would really enter the mainstream particularly. And so, for me to come around and now say, wow, okay, here's what I think is going on with those. It shows a little evolution on my part, shows that I'm willing to change my mind over time, and shows that hopefully, I can learn and share and maybe impart on you. You may be pro or anti, whatever the case may be. This is just going to be my opinion. So let me get into that. My opinion on cryptocurrencies is that it's a method to move money around the world. Obviously, that's where its real value comes in, is in international money transfers and transactions. So what does that impact? I feel like it impacts probably currency exchanges. Anybody that's in currency exchange. I think Nassim Taleb, who's written a lot of books, and he was a currency exchanger. I have a feeling he is not going to be pro cryptocurrency, as well as anyone that stands to make a buck off of the exchange rates. The great thing about crypto is, from what I can tell, I can take, say, my Coinbase account. I can associate it with a bank account, say, in the United States and another one in, let's say, the UK. And if I am traveling to the UK or doing some business or need to pay somebody in UK, something to that effect, I can take my money that I've already paid taxes on in the United States and everything. I can transfer it into a Bitcoin account, or excuse me, a Coinbase account, and then have a authorized bank at the other end to where I'm able to go ahead and move that currency, move that money, and not go through the exchange rates and not go through things like the complexities of the U.S. banking system and the head bashing that goes on or the friction that can go on between, say, two banking entities. Everything that I'm talking about is things that I am fairly certain are completely legal. They're not anything that I'm encouraging any kind of fishy activity. I think in the early days of cryptocurrency, people were very wary of the fact that this stuff might be used by bad actors. We saw that, and this is very recent memory. When you bring up crypto, a lot of people think of this goofball that I actually wrote an article online and stuck it out there 8, 12 months before this guy got arrested. He was the SBF, the guy that was in charge of the FTX cryptocurrency exchange. And the guy was a doofus. He was an idiot. He was a moron. I said as much as that. In fact, I said literally exactly that. Uh, Back long before he got arrested for embezzling money. Now, embezzling, I don't know. He lost money. I think in a large part, he welcomed people into his environment that were shady characters. He kind of built his entire business on the idea of avoiding regulation. As such, he also avoids any protections. So when somebody comes in that's a mobster or whatever, and they drop money into his system, and then they're dropping more and more and more and more, and then they say, okay, it's time for me to pull all that out. It becomes a situation where if these people have billions in his system and they pull it all out at the maximum level where it's had these high returns on the crypto maturing, that's the way the accounts got emptied. That's and did he embezzle it? I'm sure he got himself a nice chunk of change. And did it seem an awful lot like money laundering? Sure. Now the thing is, that was a bad actor. Whether Sam Bankman Fried was a moron or whether he was a corrupt, horrible individual who was sitting there making intentional bad acts Bad acts are bad acts, whether you're stupid or intentionally trying to pull something off. And I think he was stupid. I think he was just stupid. The guy's stupid. He looks like freaking John Ralphio off of Parks and Rec. If you haven't watched Parks and Rec, just go and search out on YouTube for John Ralphio, Parks and Rec, and you're going to see this guy's a moron. And that was the person I like compared him, Sam Bankman-Fried, to this John Ralphio, who was always having a scheme running and was just an idiot. So, anyways, I'll get off of that, and basically say that's the past. We now have good actors. We have, and again, full disclosure, I do own Coinbase. Coinbase I own because they have gone to all the jurisdictions and they've made efforts to make sure that they are operating within the regulations of that jurisdiction. And in many cases, they're going into these jurisdictions, they're going into these countries, really, is what it is, in these banking systems, these financial systems in these countries. And they're saying, do you have regulations? And if they don't, they help them set up the regulations to make sure that the money is transactions and everything that's moving around is all done in a kosher manner, in a manner in which that country is satisfied with. And when you do that and you have a structure in country A that's good and solid and honest, and you have a structure in country B that's good and solid and honest, and you're just using this entity as a transaction method, that's a safe system. That's a system that works. That's a system that has those currency traders worried and subsequently probably has people like, banking systems quite worried. Now, I'm not going to go into whether or not the United States or China or whomever, as a government entity, is going to come and start a stable coin. I don't know. I don't know. I'm not sure that that's actually even something that should be done, because I see the value of the coins, of the actual Bitcoins themselves. Keep in mind, I'm talking about Coinbase as an exchange. There's also the Bitcoin itself, or Ethereum, or whatever ones are out there, Dogecoin, and those are basically the transportation methods. A company can, you can look at a truck on the road and you say, oh, well, there's a truck, and there's a company that owns that truck. And it's not just a truck, it's the logistics of moving the, items from point A to point B. It's the accounting of selling the availability of that space on that truck. It's the hiring and insuring and all of these sorts of things, and the routing and the efficiencies that go into using that truck to move, whatever it's moving. You can think of it the same way when it comes to something like a cryptocurrency. That is the transportation vehicle. But Coinbase is the company that takes care of all those other things. You can have the transportation vehicle. I could go and buy a truck. Does that mean I'm going to become a shipping magnate? No, because all I have is a truck. I can go and buy a Bitcoin. Does that mean that I'm going to become, maybe I make some money, I don't know. But I think the exchanges are very much like the companies that own all the trucks. Or an even better, I feel like an even better analogy is roll back the clock 400 or 500 years, maybe not that far, 300 or 400 years. And, in the 17th and 18th century, on planet Earth, the largest company in the world, which was the Dutch East Indies Trading Company. I compare a crypto exchange well, not FTX, they're gone now. They were corrupt. They were basically pirate ships. If we're talking about Dutch East Indies and saying that cryptocurrency is like, the ships, the Bitcoins out there are like the ships that used to carry stuff from Asia to Europe and other, distant ports in the world. Is what I'm saying. FTX was a bunch of pirate ships, or they were a bunch of ships with a bunch of pirates on it, which, I don't know. Anyways, what I'm saying is that a company like Coinbase is very well poised to become very similar to the Dutch East Indies Trading Company. Because what the Dutch East Indies Trading Company was, they were the largest company in the world back in that time. They were huge. They were gigantic. They were, basically royalty. They had the ability to basically be a country on their own, even though they were based in Holland. They were so large. It was just it was an entity in and of itself. And I do believe that's what Coinbase is actually positioned at. And it's interesting because right now, Coinbase, I see that its value, its stock, goes up and down based on the value of a Bitcoin. How much is Bitcoin worth today? Oh, if it's up, well, then their stock is up. And if it's down, then their stock is down. And I don't think that's an accurate way to look at Coinbase because that's like thinking that the Dutch East Indies Company, its entire value was just in the physical ships. Oh, how much, are the sales on that ship? How much is the wood that goes into that ship? How much is it for the rudder? How much is it to maintain all these things? It's in fact, it's not even how much it is to maintain all these things. If you just looked at the Dutch East Indies Company and said, how much is the physical assets of that company worth, it wouldn't have been anywhere near what they were worth because they added value to those assets. They were the ones who set up the trading routes. They were the ones who made sure they had protection in the various jurisdictions where they were traveling through, whether it be, the English Navy, I'm sure helped them a lot. And then I'm sure that they had their own naval vessels that traveled with them. They had their own fleet. Not in addition to the shipping ships, they had frigates that could help them, defend themselves as they were moving around the world. And then in the areas where they were traveling through a sketchy area, they probably had deals with the warlords in those areas, the pirates in those areas, to make sure that they could get safe passage. They facilitated all those great things. This is a Dutch East Indies Company I'm talking about, and that's how they became huge. They didn't become huge simply because they had the ships. They became huge because they had all the infrastructure laid out. They had the paths through which they'd travel around the world. They knew exactly how they were going to get there. They knew what they were going to encounter. And if they encountered something bad, like bad weather or, pirates or whatever the case may be, they had insurance. They were insured to make sure that the value of what was in there, in their ships, the value that may have been lost, was covered. A person with just one ship back in 1780 in sending these ships around the world, yeah, maybe they're going to make a little money, but chances are at one point or another they're going to end up, getting the wrong people on the ship. They're going to end up going through the wrong area, and they're going to lose their ship. They're going to lose their cargo, and they're going to go out of business. The Dutch East Indies Company made sure that that was protected. This is Coinbase today. In other exchanges, I don't want to just focus on Coinbase, but they're the one I know the best, and they're the largest in the world. Coinbase has the protections, has the insurances, has the deals. Dutch East India Company had deals in every port that they pulled into, that their ships would get the best loading docks and that their ships would encounter the least amount of red tape as they did business in that port. Same thing is true to Coinbase. Coinbase is, they go into their ports, their banks, their financial systems is what these are for them. And they're going to make sure they don't have all the red tape. They're already going to have the system in place where they're going to pass through those things easily. They're going to have the routes through which they know they can go. They're going to avoid the sketchy areas. They're going to make sure the areas that they're going into are going to be safe and protected, and areas that they know. And that's really what they're doing. So I do see, basically, I see the Coinbases of the world, the crypto exchanges, poised to become those Dutch East Indies companies. Think about how large these banks are in the world. All these worldwide banks, these giant banks. Think of them. Right now, something like Coinbase is a tiny fraction of 1% of the size of those banks. Think of this: as cryptocurrency and international money transfers and exchanges become more and more important, you are going to see companies like Coinbase, crypto exchanges, become the new Dutch East Indies companies of this planet, of the 21st century, in 22nd century. We need to keep in mind this is a long-term thing. Before, it's going to be long after I'm gone that these companies will still exist because, I'm not going to live 200 years. And the Dutch East Indies Company was the largest in the world for, I don't know, 2.5 centuries. Uh, and that's where we are at right now with these crypto exchanges. Whoever comes out on top is basically going to be the one who becomes, the juggernaut of the planet. So yeah, I thought I'd share that. Again, a little different than my usual YouTube stuff. If this is your first time seeing me on YouTube, go back and take a look at my videos. You're going to enjoy them. I have videos about, I mean, the number one video I have, I'm an Android guy. I mean, this camera I'm using here, this here, everything I have is Android, but I show people how, in one of my videos, how to bring a iPad back to life, and that has been by far my most watched video. Anyways, I'm going to shut up now. Hopefully, this helps uh, give you a little clarity on some of the things that I think, anyways. I'm a tech nerd. I'm not a financial expert, but maybe it'll help some other people that are smarter than me even have a new way of looking at things, and people who maybe don't know as much will have a better understanding. Anyways, have a great day. Thanks.